is North Carolina a good place to live in? Before I go there, before I answer that question, I just want to tell you how I got here. So, I was born in Brooklyn, and my grandfather, my grandmother was living in Brooklyn on my mother's side. They wound up leaving, and my mother stayed for obvious reasons. She was married to my father, and she had me. My mother stayed. Everybody left and moved down to North Carolina, right? So my grandfather got this job. I think he worked at Coca-Cola and IBM, if I'm not mistaken. Middle class, middle class black community, and they were doing pretty good. In my younger years, I would go down to North Carolina to visit them for the summers, and it was like a total different world when I got down there. I heard crickets at night. I saw grass, stuff that you don't really see in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is a concrete jungle. So when my grandfather passed away, because he got into an accident, and he was paralyzed first, and then weeks later he died. My grandmother was in this big house by herself, and she asked, my mother, and my mother asked me. I was like, well, yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to leave New York because it's dirty and it's rats and it's trains and it's always busy and people are mean. But when I get down south, it's totally different. So I moved. I moved out away from Brooklyn when I was about 12 years old, right? Get down there, and I'm living in Durham, North Carolina. Now I'm living there. You see what I'm saying? So now I get to see the city for what it is, because I'm actually living there. So to make long story short, my grandmother told us, we had to leave because she remarried, and we wound up having to go on the other side of town. The other side of town, never seen it, and we lived in the hood. And let me tell you something, I have stories for days about Durham. So that's how I got there. Now, I'm going to give you my non-biased opinion. Would I live in North Carolina? Right now I live in Charlotte, so it's self-explanatory. The answer would be yes. But that's the only place that I really would live. If I were to, let's just say that I'm not living in Charlotte, and I'm considering living in North Carolina. That's the place that I would live at, is Charlotte. The reason why is because, it's the biggest city, in the state of North Carolina. It's a lot less racism here. There's opportunity. You have entertainment, such as if you're into, football and basketball. We got the professional, basketball team called the Charlotte Hornets, professional football team called the Carolina Panthers. We're not too far from the mountains. We're not too far from, I think it's the biggest zoo on the East Coast, located in Asheboro, North Carolina. And the list goes on. You have several different things to do. There's things to do, in the Noda District. It's artsy and, eclectic. It's an area where you could be. It's kind of like a hippie area. It's nice, And then you have South Park, places, shops and eateries and malls and stuff like that. You have Lake Norman. You have Lake Wiley. You have down uptown, where there's bars and clubs and stuff to do. You have South End, which is like right up the street from uptown. So there's several different things to do. The quality of life is very well here. If you're making a decent amount of money, you can actually live in a nice house in a nice community and all of that. I live in a house right now, and I live in a community that's very diverse. Oh, you have Carowinds as well. It's, amusement park like Great Adventures. So I would choose, if I were to consider living in a state of North Carolina, Charlotte. Now, if you are not into like the city life, then this wouldn't be for you. Charlotte is a little bit more city than, a lot of bit more city than your Raleigh, your Durham, your Chapel Hill, your Greensboro, your Salisbury, your Concord, Oxford, Butner. It's way more bigger. So if you are like a real country person, I don't think that you would make it here. You wouldn't like it because this is more city. If you're like you don't want to be around a bunch of people. I don't think that you would like it here because the Charlotte metropolitan area is in total 2.6 million people live in this area. And there's traffic and it's a city. Now, it's not as big as Atlanta's metropolitan area, but when looking at Charlotte as a whole and comparing it to Charlotte and Atlanta, the city Atlanta is double the size of Atlanta. So if you're into the city life, if you're coming from big cities such as New York, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, Los Angeles, Chicago, this will be a city for you, Charlotte. Of course, it's not as big as those cities that I just named, but you're still gonna get that city life. Now, if you're into more of a city that's laid back and is not as robust as Charlotte, then you would choose a place like Raleigh. Then you would choose a place like Greensboro. Then you would choose a place like Durham, in which the population is like 250,000, a little rough, between 220,000 or 260,000, something like that. Raleigh has about 560,000, something like that. And if you wanted to be even more laid back and like a lot less city, you would choose places like Cary, Oxford, Butner, Salisbury. The list goes on. They have a lot. North Carolina has a lot of rural areas. So you're gonna get, if you want that country life, you could definitely get it here. The only city life that you're gonna get is places like Durham, Raleigh, Greensboro, Charlotte, and possibly Fayetteville. That's it. Other than that, it's spread out. And you have a lot of towns, but not big cities. As far as entertainment, overall, the whole state, I mean, I used to say it used to be nothing to do in North Carolina, but that's false. I mean, you got Charlotte. You have, and I say Charlotte because I just named all of the stuff that you can do in Charlotte, and there's more. You have, if you're big on sports, that's one thing. If you're a big sports fan, you're gonna love it here because in North Carolina, people are big on sports. You have, of course, the professional team, professional football team, Carolina Panthers. You have the professional basketball team, the Charlotte Hornets. You have the professional ice hockey team, which is located in Raleigh, called the Hurricanes. Then you have college basketball and college football. So you have rivalries like, Duke versus UNC. You know what I'm saying? So if you into sports, boy, you're gonna love it here. I mean, sports is really big. Now, based on this coronavirus, COVID-19, I think a lot of things are gonna be canceled. A lot of games or events are gonna be canceled. But once this thing blows over, there are a lot of events, a lot of festivals, a lot of college games, and people just pride themselves on that. Another thing, as far as dealing with, the economy. The economy is pretty decent here. It's pretty decently intact. If you're in Charlotte, we have the two biggest banks, which is that's located here, which is Wells Fargo and Bank of America. They were established here. This is where their headquarters are. So if you're into banking, you're gonna do pretty good here because this is a banking city. You have Research Triangle Park that's located in between Raleigh and Durham, and it's full of pharmaceutical companies and like Pfizer. You have IBM that's there. You have Coca-Cola that's there. So there's jobs here. Now, if you're making at least between $40,000 to $50,000, $40,000 to $60,000 a year, oh man, you're gonna live pretty well here. You're gonna live pretty decent. Now, Charlotte, it gets pricey, but Charlotte, and I'll say Raleigh gets a little pricey too, but Raleigh is not. It's cheaper than Charlotte. Charlotte is up there. Charlotte is charging people Atlanta prices, and that's just the real of it. I'm paying $1,450. I got a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, upstairs, downstairs. What else? Yeah, front yard, backyard. I'm paying $1,450 a month. Now, somebody that's living in New York, they probably pass out by now. 14, 15, you got all of that? Yeah, but just think about it. Think about this. This is in Charlotte. If I was living in Durham, a house like this, and this is a nice house, don't get it twisted, I probably would be paying about $12, $13, about $100 to $200 less. Raleigh, I will probably be paying about $50 to $75 less. You know, so if you're making a decent amount of money, you're gonna live pretty well here. You're gonna do pretty good. There's a lot of things to do here. You know, you have the mountains in Asheville. You got the Asheboro Zoo. You have nature. If you're into nature, I mean, man, they got parks and grass and flowers for days. So if, somebody were to ask me, yo, would you live in North Carolina? I would say, yeah. Of course, I'm living here. I'm living in Charlotte. But other than that, I probably wouldn't stay anywhere else. I've stayed in Durham. I've lived in Durham. I still have family that's in Durham. I lived in Durham. I've lived in Charlotte. I've lived in Raleigh. I've lived in Greensboro. And I can tell you, out of all of the cities that I've lived in, I would choose Charlotte out of all of them. I definitely wouldn't want to live in Greensboro again, because I feel as though as a minority, I didn't feel safe. I wouldn't live in Raleigh because as a minority, I didn't feel safe. Now, somebody else that's a minority, such as myself, may have a different story. I'm not telling you all that the way that I felt that you're going to feel that way. But what I will tell you is, and this is anywhere, I would tell you to go to wherever you want to live at for a whole week and get the feel of the city. And the reason why I say that is because I packed up and left and moved to Atlanta, and I didn't know it. I didn't even stay for hours when I visited the place. I just knew that it was Black Mecca and that it was just amazing to see all of these black people being successful and doing things. I got down there, and let me tell you something. Atlanta is the most racist place that I've ever been to, besides Greensboro, North Carolina, and Raleigh, because Raleigh cops they do racially profile. Now, I'm not trying to be funny. If you're a minority, you have to really consider and think about this. I can tell you, Charlotte, I feel safe here. I just do. I just have to be honest. Safer than anywhere else in the state of North Carolina. But yeah, man, North Carolina is a decent state. There's plenty of things to do. You have NASCAR here too. That's located in Concord. That's right next to Charlotte. It's just a lot of things to do. So, if you're coming from a bigger city, I would choose, if I were you, I would choose Charlotte. If you're coming from these small towns and stuff like that, yeah, shit, you could choose just about anywhere in the state of North Carolina. That's all they have is these small towns. Other than that, I hope that I've been of some help to you and you choosing where you want to live in the state of North Carolina, or if you just want to live in North Carolina, period. Other than that, I want you to like, comment, subscribe, and definitely share this video.